You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. We got a great show for you today. We got a lot coming up today, and we're looking forward to it. So we can't wait to have a great show today here on Live Your True Life Perspectives. You know, it's an interesting day today in history. We have a lot of things going on. A lot of us are in the middle of a lot of these things. And I know that we can be overwhelmed, and it can get a little stressful. And today is a special day for me. It's actually my birthday today, so it'll be the birthday show. So it's going to be fun. We're not going to be talking about birthdays today, though. Joining me later on here in the studio, Dan Nelson, our resident genealogist, our resident historian, will be here live to continue our story from last week. And we're going to be able to figure out and find out what happens to our character and what going through the timeline. And he's actually going to, we're also on Facebook Live here, not to mention on Live USA Radio Network. So we're going to be able to have some visual aids for anybody that wants to tune in live on Facebook on the Ashley Burgess page. So we're talking here today. We're going to be talking about, we're going to talk about psychology. We're going to be talking about some politics as well. But we're also going to talk about the way that we kind of see the world based on how we're living our lives. And throughout the many events that have taken place in 2020 so far, we have seen many people take one side or another. Often it seems we're really extreme, and very few people are somewhere in the gray area or the middle. I know that many of you know that when COVID-19 first came around, we had people going to pool parties with hundreds of people and others hiding out from everyone in fear. Throughout much of our history, politically, people are either one-sided or the other, and many people believe what they read based on their chosen media outlet, and rarely do people venture into other territories and see other options. I see and hear many people getting into arguments based on what they hear from their chosen media outlet, and the other person is defending their chosen media stance. I find that Facebook is a regurgitation of that information that people take in from their one source, and then it's a ground to fight other people. And here people can be quite civil, as well as they can also be, they can also play and fight dirty and name call as well. The divide of information in our country is interesting, psychologically interesting. The strong belief with very little evidence is also very interesting. The amount of hearsay also interesting and duly noted. This leads me to the discussion for today. Often we believe in people and we trust people based on what they say versus what they do. Words and print seem to be extremely valuable, and they seem to have been valuable at one time, but I found that words from the beginning of time have been used inappropriately to manipulate other people if allowed. And it's interesting that words have been used to manipulate if allowed, with some of us sopping it up with our biscuit, and others of us removing ourselves from the table, throwing down the napkin, and cutting our losses. I find it interesting how someone can continue to try and make a relationship work that has proven painful time and time again. And we hear the person tell us they are sorry, and they won't do it again. They promise us, and for a few days, all seems to be good and right in the world. However, sooner than later, they do it again, hurting the people that love them and the folks going through the same cycle over and over and over again. And I ask, how challenging is it to watch people, to watch their actions, the way they treat other people? Don't forget also the way they outwardly treat themselves. This, too, is a piece of evidence that we want to watch for. You know, some of the red flags that I've found when I've dealt with folks in the first meeting, for example, and I think many of you can connect with me here, is like, for example, if you go to a restaurant and you meet folks, the way that they treat the wait staff, right? The way they treat the wait staff. You think if they treat them badly that they're not going to treat you badly as well at some point in time? And you know, fakery. Fakery is one of my favorite words now, fakery. Fakery is easily picked up on as long as your ego is not so big. People will play to people's ego, and this technique is used often, and unfortunately the results are usually problematic. The death toll they leave behind them How many people have they hurt? How many people have they screwed over? And how much money do they owe the folks around them? And how many things have they really ruined in their life? The bodies that they've left in the road. It's interesting because that information is usually the information we don't find out until it's absolutely too late. We start doing our due diligence based on that, and we go, oh gosh, if I would have just known this information before, I could have safeguarded myself so much. I know that many of you have dated people, you've gone into business with people, you've jointly, created companies with people, and then something goes down, and then you start looking and you start doing your due diligence and you go, oh my God, I can't believe this. I've been on the other side of that too, I understand. I get it. And it's interesting because we don't do it because we believe in what they say to us. We believe in what they say. We believe in the words that they use. And we believe that those words are all omniscient, all powerful. And that information that we needed, we find out just too late. What about people that don't have the same values of you? And you let that slide. However, eventually that too will come back somehow to bite you. If you're a good person with a great reputation, you must be careful because there are others who want to piggyback off of you. And I know that many of you have been there before. Piggyback off of others. That's something that's happening right now with the peaceful protests. We have various groups who are terrorizing our country around the globe, piggybacking off of the good people. They are taking from the mission and direction and using it for their own personal gain. Stealing, murdering, looting, vandalism, etc. Let's not believe for one moment that these people want justice for a man who's been murdered. They want for themselves. And there are many groups that are doing this. There's much evidence out there to show some of the truths. However, some people don't want to hear the truth. They're happy that they're happy with their theory, they're happy with their concept, and they'll go to the grave arguing it with anyone, and they'll argue it no matter what. And this leads me to the major point that I want to talk about today about people. We can see evidence to prove something about someone, and we will either choose to believe or choose not. When they show you who their true self is, do you believe it or do you think you can change them? Do you just try to accept them? Do you try to make it better? Do you overlook it? What do you do? And I believe that we try to overlook things. The narcissism, for example, or the fact that someone doesn't seem to have human emotion. Again, another red flag. I had a person tell me recently that what they were saying to me was not personal. It's just not personal. Don't take it personal. It was extremely personal. It's not about what they say, it's how they act. And that's something that I think we need to talk about in today's Live Your True Life program. It's more about safeguarding yourself in a situation where you believe in what somebody says, but yet they keep going the opposite of what they're saying. And I know that many of you right now listening to the show on USA Radio Network have been manipulated by someone based on what they said, and you believed in it, really. And you took it in, you believed it, and you took them in. And then all of a sudden, within a blink of an eye, everything changes. Now, was it in a blink of an eye? Were there red flags? There were multiple red flags. Did we choose to not look at the red flags? Yes, we chose not to look at the red flags. Did we choose to act like it didn't exist? Yes. I've done it before, too. I checked all those boxes as well. I've been there. I've done that. I understand that. I've gotten the t-shirt. I've gotten the sweatshirt. I got the sweatsuit combination. I got, I got it all. I got the sippy cup. I got the bumper sticker, the one that doesn't stick, the one that's magnetic. I can take it on and off the car. I got all of it. I got all the swag. And that's the interesting part about it is because many of us are there. We're there at this moment right now, and we're seeing other stuff happen around us, around the globe. And on top of that, we're also having things happen within our own personal life, even our own professional life, that's making us wake up to what's happening. And this show is dedicated to anybody that wants to just get that, that next level to be able to understand what you're dealing with and be able to identify it to understand exactly what you're dealing with. We try to overlook these things, right? Like narcissism, right? Narcissism is a big thing we try to overlook. Oh, they just have a good sense of self. They just walk in a room and they can command the room, and it's really nice to see. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. Yeah, they don't seem to care about anybody or anything. there's a lot of indications about somebody being very narcissistic, right? But it's a lot of times we overlook it. We say, oh, they must have so much, they have confidence. It's confidence. It's just confidence. It's that they have a lot of confidence. Real? Okay. Interesting. Is it confidence or is it narcissism? And it's interesting because a lot of times when someone doesn't even have human emotion, and I know where where I'm going with this, we're going down the cluster B road for just a little bit. We try to act like it doesn't exist, or we try to act like they must be disconnected from their emotions, and there's a lot of us who are disconnected from our emotions. Let's get that straight. But it's very different in what it is. Okay? And I really think it's interesting when we look at these situations and we understand what we're dealing with, we can safeguard ourselves and choose wisely the people that we want to interact with on a daily basis, the people that we want to be friends with, the people that we want to have come to our home, the people that we want to do business with, the people that all that stuff is extremely important. And in order to have the energy and the time and the dedication to do the right thing, we got to be sure that we're choosing the right people around us because we do not want to get jaded. And I think that anybody that's out there that's been jaded knows what I talk about. It's hard when you've been jaded because you feel as though, and you can be unjaded at any time, but when you've gotten burnt pretty bad, it takes a little bit, but you have to do some soul searching and some believing. And then throughout that time, you got to jump back in. But you don't want to get overrun by a situation and not be able to get yourself out of it. We want to work on that. So later on in the show, I'm going to be talking about some of the red flags and some of the things to be aware of. Dan Nelson's going to be joining us live as well. And he's going to join us here in the third segment. And we got a lot coming down. So we're going to be talking about some of these red flags and how to identify these folks as well. And some of the things that you can do to safeguard yourself. Some of the acknowledgments that you can understand. But better yet, one of the things that I find that's interesting is that once we have the knowledge, as long as we use it, it becomes power. As long as we use the knowledge, it becomes power. If we have knowledge and we never use it, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. And we have to have the ability to have the knowledge, to use it, to execute it, to believe in ourselves enough to have the gumption to say some of the things that we wouldn't normally say, and also allow the reality that sometimes people will come out of our lives, some people will leave, and some people we will choose to ask to leave. It's okay. And some of those people you might even be related to. And that's okay too. But we have to understand and we have to get rid of the guilt as well so that we make the proper decision based on the analysis that we need and the understanding that we need to be able to see a situation clearly. And that's what's so important. And that's what we're aiming for throughout today's show today. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be giving you some tips and tricks on that, on how to overcome that, how to see it coming, also just how to feel good in your own body and in your own skin. So we'll be talking about that, so stay tuned. Don't leave. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. You don't want to miss it. Dan Nelson's going to be here live in just a bit. And Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. We'll be back this time. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes. Hey guys, we are live here in the studio, and we're doing this for the first time in my studio here in Dallas. So we're not at the USA Radio Network studio. We are in my studio. I want to give a shout out to Jacqueline. Thank you so much for the happy birthdays. Yay! Thank you so much. I love you too, and thank you. It means so much to me. Barbara Adelglass, thank you, sweetheart. You're awesome. I love you, and I appreciate you tuning in. It means the world to me. Give Dr. A hug. Y'all are awesome. I love y'all. Curtis, thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate the love and the happy birthdays. That is awesome. You are amazing. And I'm just so glad that you were able to tune in today. Thank you so much. Sophie, great to hear from you. Thank you for the birthday. Thank you. Thank you. Lawrenceston, thank you so much. You're awesome. Yes, I have not forgotten. Been crazy around here, I'm sure you know. Rock, thank you so much for the happy birthday. You are amazing. Yeah, I didn't have a birthday. I'm not gonna have a birthday tonight, like a party or anything, because quite honestly, I mean, with COVID and the limitations of who you can have, and um, don't forget about the riots, and then don't forget about the curfew. And I think they might lift the curfew, but who knows? But I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna eat dinner tonight. I might actually venture out of my house for dinner. I'm not sure. We'll see. Okay, so this one's about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. So Dan's gonna join us here in the next segment. I hope the feed is working well for folks. Let me know, guys. I really appreciate all the birthdays. Scott, great to hear from you. Scott gave me the greatest birthday last year, by the way. We got to get together, man. Love you, Barbara. I love you. Good times. That was a great birthday party last year. We got to do it again. It's just not on the dates, right? It's just not on the date. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a party. So it's not going to be on the official date, but it's going to be there. Yes, Ron. Yes. Dan, that commercial that you're hearing in the background, I don't know if you're catching it here. You might not be able to. I got to find out that. I got to play it back. But Dan is here. He creates these amazing books for people's families so they can know exactly who they were related to and everything. Is really fun. So we're going to be talking about that as well.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Hey, we're back, we're live, guys. So we're talking about some of those red flags that we deal with people and being able to see people's, their truth. Be able to see their truth. Because many of us are just listening constantly to what they're saying to us or telling us. Whatever they're telling us, we believe that's the reality. But it's not. And sometimes people are. Sometimes people are extremely genuine and they've really connected with themselves and they've dealt with their emotional stuff and they've overcome a lot of things and they've gotten really real with themselves. And that's awesome. And what they say, usually you can believe in. But lately I've realized that there's a lot of folks out there that are saying one thing and doing another. And I found that when good people come around a lot of those people too often in life, they get what I call jaded. They get very questionable, and usually they end up retreating out of fear that they could get hurt. Now, some of us are the kinds that run back into the wave, right? You see the big wave coming, the tidal wave, and instead of, walking backwards like everybody else is, you just jump in the wave. And so, for you, I don't think that, I think this discussion is helpful, but I don't think it deters you from being who you are. But I think sometimes when people are hurt, it scares them so much they don't want to be hurt again. And, I'd like to begin with talking about something that I think needs to be discussed, is that a lot of times we want everybody to like us, right? And many of us have that codependent gene when we were brought up in a family dynamic where we were kind of trained to be the codependent. And we learned how to be the codependent. And we were really good at being the codependent. If you could get a degree and there was a doctorate, you could be a doctorate in codependency. And, what I found is that many of us are not okay without everybody liking us. We want everybody to like us. Oh, God, if everybody just likes me, I'll be okay. If everybody just likes me, I'll win the most likable award. But is that something that really matters? And I know it's hard because, back in school, and I want to talk about this. Remember back in like elementary school or even middle school, or even high school for that matter, even college. I mean, even now, okay, remember any time when somebody didn't like you and you literally were like, oh my God, I want to do anything I can to be liked by this person. And all these other people could like you and everybody else could tell you how great you are. But it's that one person that kind of treats you badly. And you're like, God, what can I do to make them like me? I mean, I got to do something. I can't handle this. And back in elementary school and middle school and high school, how like you would torment over it all night, Probably women more than men, but come on now, I'm not going to be judging sexistly because you know what, that's not true. Men and women both like to be liked, but I think we like to be liked so much that it scares us if we're not. And so sometimes we don't say what we need to say. We don't say the information that we need to say. It's like sometimes you just got to say it. Sometimes you just got to say the information and make it happen. And that's something that I think many of us are not doing, is we don't want to say what we want to say. We don't want to say what we have to say. We don't want to make the comment like, hey, I really like you, but something you did the other day is kind of shady. And it's not making me feel warm and fuzzy about this friendship, or it's not making me feel warm and fuzzy about this partnership. And we really need to talk, and we need to get some boundaries here, because I need to figure out where you stand. Because right now I'm not feeling that good about what I'm seeing. And I think that if we begin to realize that what we see and the actions we see directly relate to what is real versus what we're told. Okay, you can be told anything. We've all been told how much we're liked. We're in the same sentence. Somebody's telling us how much they like us while they're texting someone how much they can't stand being around us. We've seen how somebody can literally lie and lie to your face, but in the same point say how great you are. And that's the thing, is that I think we need to look at these red flags. One of the other things that I want to talk about before we go to break is when it feels off, you need to be okay with that feeling. Many of us don't like the feeling of feeling a little weird. We don't like the feeling of something not feeling right. So we try to hide it. We try to cover it up. We try to let it go. We try to make it into something else. We try to we try to talk over it. It's like, those pauses, those silent pauses, powerful pauses. Why do we have to talk over that? Very interesting. Why? Why do we have to talk over that? Why? Good questions, right? Because we feel uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. Stay tuned. Dan Nelson's joining me here later on in just a few minutes, and we'll be back. I'll give you some more tips and tricks on how to deal with this stuff, how to be successful, even more successful than you already are. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. We'll be back this time. I'll be back this time in two shades. Yeah, grab Dan. Let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, here we go. Let me try to figure this out. Hello? Can y'all hear that? Hello? Can y'all hear that? Hey, Dan, come on in. Grab a seat. We're trying to figure out... something. We might have to share a mic. Okay, so what's going on? See if you can talk in that. Let's see if everybody, let me know if you can hear this on Facebook, guys.
Hello, this is Dan Nelson. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Hopefully you can hear me in this mic.
Well, we're going to make sure that you're heard.
Oh, there's the camera. I see. Okay.
Oh, yeah, here, move over.
Go a little closer.
There you go. Is it...
Somebody says you're heard, but I don't know if that's...
Yeah.
I feel good. I'm heard.
Is he heard? Can you hear Dan?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
You can hear me. Well, as long as James can hear me, I'm good.
Good, right?
Yeah.
How's it going?
You're doing good.
The news is really loud in my headset, so...
I don't know how to not scream into your headset.
It's like the news. It's like, doo-doo-doo-doo. They're telling us about the unrest. And
oh, that's what's screaming in your head. It's not just in your head.
Okay, so you can't hear you. They can't hear you at the studio. They can hear you on Facebook. Okay, this is a beatdown. What we'll have to do is I'll give you. So we'll have to just trade back the mics.
Okay.
Well, I just figure we'll banter. So we'll start off like first. I'll reintroduce the segment, and then we'll banter back and forth. And we're gonna be an old school trade off on mics.
Okay.
So you just got to go back and forth. We can't have too much dead space.
All right.
More than a second of dead air makes people cringe. Okay, guys, great to have you all listening. Dan's microphone works on Facebook. What do you need?
Oh, some are my notes, but
Oh,
I know
I borrowed them.
oh, okay. There we go. No
Sorry,
problem.
I wrote on it.
It's all right. I pretty much know it up here. But...
I think I printed it, but I only printed one page of it. So I realized I got that page of yours.
Oh, that doesn't do you much good.
No. Okay.
We'll share. We can share mics. We can share notes.
We're going to put Dan on my mic, and we're going to trade the mic back and forth. I got to figure out why the board's not working properly. We'll figure it out. She's in studio. She can't talk back, though, because she'll be talking over the ads and the spots.
Okay. I'll just go with your key.
Okay, guys. Okay, Dan's in the station. Dan's in the house. So, Dan, what are you going to be talking about today?
Well, I'm going to finish up the story from last week, which was about, actually, it takes off 137 years ago today. So it was minus some 100 years before you were born to the day. This story starts out again this week.
Did I even tell you it was my birthday?
No, you didn't. I heard it through the wall.
Oh,
So
yay!
happy birthday, Ashley.
Thank you! I go to work on my birthday.
Who's your boss? Oh, you are.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I know, right?
Well, that just shows you how dedicated you are to your listeners.
Thank you. I am dedicated.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is I'll start this segment, and then you got 16. 16. So I'll do the intro, and then we'll talk for a while, and then this is cool. And then what you'll do is talk, and then you hand it back, and talk, and then hand it back.
Okay. I think I can do that.
We'll get this other stuff figured out soon.
Yeah, for sure.
What happened to, oh, you're cute. You pull it down. It looks good. Do y'all see George in the background?
There you go. What do you call
It is getting really hot here in town, huh?
Video bomb.
Holy hand grenade, Superman. Okay, guys, it's getting hot in the Whole Foods parking lot.
Want me to lower it?
Huh?
You want me to
It's
lower
already lowered.
it? Okay.
It's at 70.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is a 1905 home.
They didn't have HVAC.
And then other day, and then it's 11-foot ceiling, so it takes a while to cool down.
Right, that would make sense. And then the windows are lower because you could actually open them up and let the breeze.
That would have been good.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I've been talking about the red flags, being able to identify when somebody is not telling you the truth, being able to identify when someone, they're telling you what they want you to hear. They're telling you what they want you to think about them. They're telling you what they want you to believe about them, right? And it feels really good, right? It feels all warm and fuzzy. But you know what happens is we get all into that warm and fuzzy, and we get our butt kicked. We get sideswiped. It happens out of the blue. We're like, oh, man, that hurt. Oh, I didn't even see that happen. I didn't even see that was coming. I mean, I just don't know anymore. I mean, society is just painful. I mean, I don't even know. It's not even safe to make friends anymore. But it is. It's just we got to make sure that we safeguard ourselves in the right place. We got to make sure that we're doing the right thing to safeguard ourselves, that we care enough about ourselves to center ourselves around the people who we should be centered around. There's a lot of people that might be taking your energy, taking your time, taking just your time. That, quite honestly, why? It's a waste of time. I've realized two things, right? We got time and we got our health, and everything else, come on. Everything else is great. I mean, you got some looks, that's nice. You're tall, that's nice. You're thin, that's great. You have a good hobby, you got cute dogs and a good family, that's awesome. But when it comes down to it, all we have is our time and our health, right? Those are the most important things that we have. And when someone takes away from our time that doesn't deserve our time because they're lying and manipulating us, not cool. Not cool. No bueno. Uncool. And so, when you think about these red flags, like I was talking before the break, being okay with not everybody liking you, being okay with stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, you don't have to call them out and be mean. We don't have to react. I just put up a video on YouTube. It's about stopping manipulation by not reacting. When you react to somebody and you jump in the argument, you get full throttle manipulated. Because then they can beat you up for how you responded in the argument, and then it doesn't become what they did. It becomes how you responded and how you were a jerk and how you were mean, and then you let them get away with what they're wanting to get away with you. Because basically, if you yell in the argument, they go, see, you're a mean person, and you know what, I was right to do what I did, and now they validate what they did to you by how you reacted. Not something we want to do, right? We don't want to give them validation to screw us over by reacting in a way that they can turn the reaction into the argument and make us the bad guy based on manipulation and gaslighting that they use on a constant basis. We've got to stop that. When somebody is showing their true self, we got to jump on the bandwagon and say, you know what, I'm living my true life and I'm going to let this go. Get up from the table, be kind, be nice, but don't spend any more time. And we have to also be okay with those odd feelings and get in there. Get in there and feel, where is this weird feeling coming from? Why does my gut feel weird when I'm around this person? Why do I feel stressed out around this person? Why do I feel like I'm not being told the truth? Probably because you're not, but you got to be connected to your gut, because if you're not connected to your gut, you will not know what the truth is. We'll definitely do a full show on that too, because you got to feel it and you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to live by that and go from that state of mind so that you know exactly where you are and what you're feeling at the given time, place, and date. And when we actually live by our gut, we begin to do what's right, not based on what people tell us, right? We get past that and we're able to see with like superhuman strength, right? And all of a sudden the kryptonite of hearing what people tell us and believing in that goes away. And we make those gut feeling checks. We have that gut check and we make the decision we need to. Maybe we don't always make the right decision, but we eliminate a lot of the pain and suffering in our life. And the people that have everything and the know-it-alls in our life, they can go to the wayside. And right before we start talking to Dan, I want to bring that one point up, is that when you're around people that know everything, remind yourself these people don't know everything. And most of the time, they might not even know anything very much. When we hang out with these people, we get delusional and we believe what they're saying to us. And oftentimes it's manipulation, and they might not even know it's manipulation, but nobody's brought it up to the fact that they are claiming knowing everything. And usually when we're surrounded by that, we make bad decisions. Dan Nelson, great to have you in today's show. How are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here today.
Well, I'm just glad to have you, and it's great that we're going to continue our story from last week. And the greatest thing is that this happened 137 years ago to the day, June 6, 1863. Tell me more about that.
Well, it just happened to be that 137 years ago it matched up. And what happened on this day was that three Confederate companies of the 20th Mississippi came into the camp that they'd sort of built this shelter, and they paroled them. So he says, they came into camp, they paroled us, and he says, we give our name to and receiving the oath from Lieutenant Hayes of the above spoken regime. So they didn't look at these as Confederates as buddies when they used the word regime. And he says, sorry to be paroled, but cannot avoid it. And so you might ask, well, why would he be sorry to be paroled? Well, I don't understand that. Well, times were different back then. So what happened is, if the enemy captured you and didn't turn you into a prisoner of war, they paroled you. Well, that parole meant that on your honor, you would no longer take up arms against your enemy. So both sides did this, Union and Confederate. So if you were captured and you took an oath and said, I won't fight against you again, you didn't get out of the military, but you then ended up with a non-combatant job. So it was sort of a big deal. It's like saying I'm being disarmed, which is sort of shameful. I mean, that's sort of the sense of honor they had back then. So next day, Sunday, June 7th, he says, have some interesting time gathering and eating blackberries, have a small piece of bone taken from my wound on the side of my head. You know, no big deal. Get some blackberries, have some bones removed from your head. Next day, he says, 45 ambulances arrive late in the evening to remove us. My wound is gaining slowly. Next day, get in the ambulances, and these ambulances are just wagons. You know, there was no, not when we think of an ambulance nowadays. And start near noon for Sherman's Landing, as in General Sherman, on the Yazoo River. Take supper near sundown at the Black River Bridge and immediately renew our journey. And the last day that I'm going to share the daily diary entry, June 10th, is have a very disagreeable night's travel as sleep was out of the question. arrived at the landing near 6 o'clock and hurried on the hospital boat, City of Memphis, by heavy rain, which was coming fast. So that sort of gets him to where he's at on his journey, and then we'll talk more about what became of him.
So on June 10th, okay, so that's interesting too. You were talking about the ambulance. So we're talking about a horse-drawn carriage, right?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, nothing special. There was no like extra layers of comfort or anything built in. There was just a wooden wagon bouncing around on muddy, backwoods Mississippi roads.
Aren't y'all glad? I mean, I know 2020 has been a real frustrating year, but I mean, come on, that's something that we're glad that we have, right?
Yeah, we're pretty whiny by comparison. So.
We are. And so on the Wednesday on June 10th, here we are in the city of Memphis, huh?
Yeah, that's the name of the boat that they were actually in, and they headed up to St. Louis. And St. Louis is where the hospital was that he was put into to recuperate from his pretty significant injury.
So they actually had hospital boats back then?
Yeah, they had hospital boats, and then they had hospital, built sort of behind the front line. So St. Louis was the closest safe place where they were away from the Confederacy, and they could build hospitals, and other guys would, get attacked in the hospital.
Oh, I didn't even think about an ambush in the hospital.
Well, it could certainly happen if you were in a frontier type of hospital.
So, okay, so what's next? What happens? Because, you were kind of looking and we're like, gosh, what happens to this guy? What happens to his life? Does anything happen really spectacular for him?
Well, he ends up recuperating, and then as part of his parole, he stayed in the military, but he became a nurse at a hospital in Indianapolis. And then he returned after the war to his hometown in Indiana. There's stories in the family about his wife made the eye patches for him because he was a war hero. This was a big deal. You weren't like treated poorly if you had scars from war or whatever. They traveled to Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, finally settled in northeast Kansas, and he was a prosperous farmer. So even with the dust getting in his eye in a dust storm, he was able to succeed as a farmer. He was an avid writer and reader, and he lived to 87 years of age. He even talked about the theory of evolution in his writings.
Really? So let me ask you. So back in the day, I guess, did he just wear a patch the whole time, or did they have Did they have the ability to have a glass eye, or was that even around at that point in time?
I don't know about the glass eyes. He wore a patch. He definitely wore a patch. So we only have one picture of him post-Civil War where you could see him face on, and so I'm going to try and show that up there. Yeah, so you can see his one eye there where it's sort of, looks like it's closed. Okay, well, he wasn't winking. So that picture he had to have taken for his disability claim that he filed as a soldier. But all the other pictures that were ever taken of him, he was turned to the side. So everybody else would be looking forward and he'd be looking to the side. In a few pictures, one of his daughters or somebody else would do the same thing to sort of balance the picture in terms of the symmetry, but never a face-forward picture where you could see it again. So I was fortunate to get this picture, and Uncle of mine had it. This is sort of a cool thing, too. So these are his eyeglasses that he wore after the Civil War. So you may not be able to see the fogging that's in the, let me get the camera there. So in the one side, it's fogged. There you go. Okay, it's sort of weird holding it backwards to the camera. But this side here, over here, is fogged where my finger is, because you don't want to have, when you can only see through one eye, have the distraction of seeing things peripherally, so they actually fog it out. So these glasses have survived to today. They're in the hands of a relative, and so I borrowed them for this show. This is a mini ball, which is what was shot and hit him in the eye. It's a little hard to see there with the reflection on the plastic, but similar in size right here to probably the tip of your finger. So
that's like a bullet? That's like, what is that made out of?
It was steel. It's other than I'd lose it, I'd take it out of the package, but it's steel. Mm-hmm. And it would definitely do some damage if you got shot with it. Of course, these things are just flying everywhere during battle. It's not like somebody set and carefully aimed at his head or something like that. It's just random whether you got hit or not and where you got hit, because it goes over and hits him. It came in right below here. Well, if it came in above and severed his artery, he'd have just bled to death on the battlefield. So it's just random. You're lucky if you got shot in the leg or the arm or something like that versus in the heart.
So he traveled to Pikes Peak in 1901. That's interesting. And then he became a writer, and he lived at 87 years old, and he said that he prescribed to Darwinism. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so he, this was back when you had Clarence Darrow and the monkey trials and all that kind of stuff. And so he wrote a lot about, what God said and what the theories of evolution said. Of course, they called it Darwinism versus theory of evolution then. And it was interesting to see, sort of his writing out loud as he sort of reconciled those things in his mind, because there was, for the first time, evidence of evolution, yet he was a God-fearing person that studied the Bible. So, working through those things. No different than we work through them today, but he did back then and recorded his thoughts on it. Here's some more pictures here. I don't know how well you'll see them, but it gives you an idea of what our books look like. This is a book we put together on him that
This is interesting. So right now, for everybody on the radio, it's really cool because Dan's he's our resident genealogist, so he's actually showing us some of the books that they put together, showing all the family relatives, and it's really neat because if you look at like this historical reference right here, I mean, this goes back, we're talking about stuff from 137 years ago. A lot of us sit there and think that the shopping center down the street was built in 1987, and that was pretty old. And you're like, "Whoa, that was pre-90s. That was pre-90s." That was glass brick time. Remember those little glass bricks that they had that you make the bathrooms and stuff out? Everybody's like, "That's 1975." But Dan, really quick, because I think that a lot of folks want to know, how are you able to find all this and compile something of this magnitude to make that? To be able to provide this type of information and to see it as, so clearly, because a lot of times there's all these fragmented stories, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the fragmented stories. And I describe it as it's putting together a puzzle. The only thing is when I start, I don't know what the front of the box looks like. So I don't want to lose any pieces, because every piece could be potentially what gets me to sort of know what the front of the box looks like. Rarely do you get the complete, top of the puzzle box when you're done, but you get enough to craft a story. And how I do it is just really years of experience in terms of knowing where to look, which archives to check out, being diligent. I subscribe to a number of digital databases that the average person wouldn't want to spend the money on, but I can leverage it by exploring so many different family histories, and that's where I find that data. Just dig. I mean, the internet makes it easier, but you can't get trapped by the internet because it also could be limiting, so you have to actually go beyond the internet.
That's interesting. I think many of us are interested in the historical reference of our family. A lot of us know a lot of information. Some of us know very little or none. And I think it's very powerful stuff because, we by learning of our history, we learn a little bit more about ourselves. And just like history in situations that we're going through right now, a lot of times it repeats itself. And it's good to be able to look back at historical reference and understand what happened then.
That's absolutely correct. And I see it a lot in the DNA. So somebody didn't even know about an ancestor, and they take a DNA test, and I discover that ancestor, and it's amazing that ancestors' habits and styles and career choices and things that they did end up being in this person that's their descendant. I mean, it's bizarre. Now, in many cases, you don't see that because a lot of people earned a living as a farmer, so unless somebody's an active gardener or a farmer today, you wouldn't know it. But in other choices that they make, being a good public speaker, for instance, happens to be something you can sort of track DNA-wise. So it's pretty amazing how well you realize how influenced people are today by just the DNA they inherited.
Powerful stuff. Well, Dan, I can't wait to see you back next week and throughout the month. And it's just powerful stuff with Dan, and I just seem to learn something new every day. And these are some really uplifting, good stories.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to next week. I think I'll have a good story about back in the day challenges in terms of civil rights. I have to research it some more, but that's where I'm sort of leaning right now with my next week's story.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here. I'll be back. Stay tuned. Keep it on here. Keep it on the dial. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess. We'll be back just in a few seconds. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes. Perfect.
How'd you do this? He said, this was him.
Oh my God.
You could have been the before the war and the after the war.
So I think that was really cool. You can use that one on Facebook. So
okay.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, it was fun to pull it all together, and it's fun to share it with people. There's a whole group of descendants of his that we have as a Facebook group because we had a reunion last June. So descendants of one branch of his family. So they're all interested in this. Some of them are likely watching today. I sent out the information, and then I'll send it out to them, as the captured file so that they can hear about it. Of course, they know the story. They just haven't heard anybody say it out loud.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that the spots are playing createyourcause.org and artforyourcause.org. If you haven't had a chance, please go to artforyourcause.org and artforyourcause.com, and you can actually connect with artforyourcause.com. You can connect with artists. You can buy artwork. You can give to the charity of your cause. You as an artist can put your work up there, and you can help with charitable options as well. But you can also put your whole collection on there, as well as createyourcause.org, where you can actually create a cause and fund a cause based by using that actual website. Very cool. The CEO is Liz London. So going back, I feel like a lot of people would love to get grasps of, who was the great-great-grandfather, or who, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that we're so limited, and I think also, you see some of these families, and I think you get, like, family historical envy sometimes, because you got these people with these great histories, and you're like, I want that.
I have not had a client yet that hasn't had an interesting, even fascinating portion of their history that they had no idea about. And I've had people say, mine is going to be so boring. All my ancestors were farmers. We did nothing. We weren't people that stood out. And eventually I got to some part of their family where it was like, wow, that's one of my ancestors. And I'm actually working through one of those now where this lady's just having a great time, because I feed people information as I go, and as I discovered if they're interested in that. And so she's just loving it, because I keep finding all this cool stuff about her ancestors that she had no idea.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, you kind of wonder, you're like, do I have a really boring, or do you have like a really like crazy family? It's like, wow, I only had 4 murders in my family.
It's slow news day, only 4 murders. Yeah.
You're like, oh, that'd be horrible,
Well, there's definitely, I have some family way far back that I'll have to do an episode on them, but they were definitely, could have used your help.
Okay, well, too bad they're not still around to get help.
Yeah, you have to time travel to help them.
I'd like to time travel, but I'd rather go ahead. Well, I don't know. Some people say if you go ahead, it could be bad.
I'm pretty sure future time travelers won't want to come back to 2020 so far. Maybe there's more better stuff to come.
Don't go back.
Yeah.
6 minutes. Or 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we've been talking, we just talked to Dan Nelson, our resident historian, who gave us some really cool historical information, which I thought was amazing, that goes back 137 years back to June 6th, this birthday day. And, I've been talking about the red flags with narcissism and dealing with people who say one thing and do another, dealing with people that do as I say, not as I do. And it's interesting, how people will say things and we're supposed to just be okay with it. We're supposed to let it go. We're going to sweep it under the rug. Those really quiet, long pauses that we don't like to deal with are very telling. And one of the things that I've realized too is like what Dan was talking about, getting to know your family history and, looking at the DNA. Well, most of us have DNA of something, and a lot of us listening to the show have a lot of, codependent DNA. Okay. We got a lot of codependent DNA, and we're dealing with it on a constant basis. And you know what? It doesn't help. And we're not focusing on what we need to focus on. We need to realize, yes, do we love people? Yes. Most of us are empathic. If you don't know what empath means, go look it up, because you might be an empath, because you might feel things really, really deeply. You might really connect with people on a deep level. Right now, in the middle of this chaos, you can probably feel what people are feeling. Even during COVID, now it's still going on. It didn't stop. I mean, we just started riot season now. We go back from COVID, maybe come back. But, it's like we feel for people, right? And if you're feeling for people right now, you might be in a place where you're a little overwhelmed. You're a little stressed out. You don't know how to feel. Maybe you're a little melancholy. Maybe you're stressed out. And if that's the case, you might be empathic and feeling for people. And you need to step back and really analyze your emotions. And that's awesome. Being an empath, that's a superhero strength. That's a great thing, but it has to be used as a superhero strength. It can't be used as your kryptonite. And many of you are using it as your kryptonite because you don't know how to harness it. You don't know how to use it. And I get it. I understand that. We'll do a show on that too, because if you can use empathy correct, you can understand what people are about to tell you, how they feel about you. You can connect with them on an emotional level. You will know what you're dealing with. And if you choose to overlook the red flags and you choose to keep running into the wave, well, that's your decision. I've run into a wave many times. metaphorically and real, I mean, you're underneath the water getting your butt kicked, sand all in the swimsuit. You got to deal with it. I've been there. I've done it. I got the t-shirt, I got the sippy cup. But, the thing is that we don't want to keep living that. Once we learn from our mistakes, we want to learn from them. We don't want to just keep doing the cycles over and over again. And it's not really your mistake for somebody to turn on you, is it? But if we keep allowing it over and over again, it is our choice and it is our mistake. And at the beginning, it's knowledge. And then we get knowledgeable and we start using our knowledge and we create that use of knowledge, and that becomes personal power, right? And then we continue to use that personal power in a positive way based on our gut feeling and our knowledge of what we're dealing with. And sometimes we have to make decisions that they're not easy. A lot of us have to make decisions that aren't easy. I got to make decisions that aren't easy every day of my life. I got to tell clients things that I don't necessarily love telling them. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is great. This is going to be fun today. No, I don't want to do that. But I have to, because I have to be honest. Because they're coming to me for honesty. They're coming for me to help them change their life, make the changes they need. They're not coming to me to be placated and to be in the same place they were a year from now. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to grow. And so, some of the last things that I want to talk about real quick is that when we are dealing with situations and we are dealing with something that we realize is manipulation, or we are being gaslight, or we are being used, we got to stop and figure out how much longer do we want to go down the cycle. Some of the times it feels very comfortable because we've been here a numerous amount of times before. We felt it before. We dealt with that same personality before. One of the things that I want to encourage you is that when you meet somebody for the first time and it feels really comfortable, I want to ask you, is it comfortably healthy or comfortably toxic? Is it comfortably healthy or is it comfortably toxic? If it reminds you of something, you need to get in there, get into that psyche, get into that feeling and say, does this remind me of this? That's really, really toxic. It's comfortable because I'm used to it all the time. I've been around it. Or is it comfortable because it's healthy? And sometimes things that are uncomfortable may be healthy, and sometimes things that are uncomfortable may be toxic. You've got to determine that. But when we've been around something so long, we're used to it. We're accustomed to it. It becomes our normal, no matter how painful it is. I hope this show has helped you. I've enjoyed having Dan in studio today. And we got a great show for you next week. And in the meantime, check out the website, ashleyburgess.com, ashleyburgess.com. You can go to the radio show page. You can watch some of the live radio shows. You can go to the radio show and listen to all the podcasts. You can also click there on Dan Nelson Genealogy. Go right to his website. Also, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. Recent video just went up about reaction and letting go of manipulation and not playing into the gaslighting game. So go to YouTube, put in Ashley, Burges. I hope you have a great day. Can't wait to see you next week. Live your true life perspectives. Your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. In 3 shakes. Great show. That was great.
I think it went pretty good.
We're still going to be on Facebook for a little bit longer.
Good thing you're good at multitasking.
I know, right?
You'd be in real trouble.
You'd be like, oh, crap, what are we doing now? Oh, shit.
I'll follow her lead.
Oh, we're off the air now. I'm allowed to use the S-bomb. Yeah, so we got a lot going on, guys. We actually did a great job for our first time in my studio, so we didn't drive down the street. How'd you like it? First time out.
It was great. It was nice coming to a place with 2 other people in today's world where you worry about how much contact.
Yeah, you didn't have a whole building, and you got to go up 10 floors.
Right.
Yeah, that could be a little... See, that's why I think like the new revolution of the smaller offices, like the smaller offices are going to be a new revolution. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Elevators are... I don't know how they're going to figure those out. You can't make elevators bigger.
Mm-mm.
So
You can't.
You can't breathe on the elevator. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that the offices where you see, less than 6 people, maybe, less than 8 people is going to be a powerful thing to be. And especially like these executive offices and stuff. Like, I know a lot of people will not be able to work from home very much longer because they just can't.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like you got kids, you got family, and on top of that, the laundry's got to be done. Oh God, I'd rather do the laundry than do my work.
Well, I've been on a lot of these Zoom calls, and you have the families who had to go out and buy laptops because the kids are on Zoom doing school. The parents are both doing their jobs on Zooms, and these may have been 1 or 2 computer families before.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Computer sales are actually up during all of this time.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I heard that also treadmill sales are up too.
that would make sense.
I almost bought one, but I got lucked out. I lucked out. I lucked out. I can't go into it because we'll be talking about gyms and stuff like that and COVID and everything. But I lucked out, man. I mean, because I think my own personal mental health. It's like when you work with 8 clients a day, 9 clients a day, you need to run. And running outside ever since knee injuries in high school track has not been my thing. So I
especially
lucked
with the
out.
temperature now.
Oh my God, it's so hot.
Yeah,
Holy hand grenade!
it's crazy.
It is hot outside.
We had such a nice May. I mean, if you were going to have a shutdown, we had the best months and the best weather for it. But now, yeah, it's getting a little old for those that are still in that state.
It is, and guys, it's gotten really hot. If you're here in Texas, I know that a lot of y'all are watching on the timeline. David Bush, great to hear from you. Dan Zeller, great to hear from you. Richard, great to hear from you. Jacqueline, thank you so much. You're amazing. David Call, thank you so much, sweetheart. You are awesome. Nishant, oh, great to hear from you. You are amazing. Thank you so much. David Bush, I think I might have said thank you. I hope I did. Ernie Salazar, thank you so much. Kirk Knowles, great to hear from you. Thank you so much. Lisa, oh my gosh, great to hear from you. I feel like a lot of us are like, a lot of you are like, I'm looking on the timeline, Lisa, you're in Los Angeles. We got a lot of folks here that are not, Jacqueline, you're in California. But some of y'all are in San Antonio. Looks like we got a couple of folks in Florida, and we got some folks in Germany. Great to see y'all. And great to see you, Sophie. Great to see you. And we got some folks right here in Big D in Dallas, Texas. We got some people in San Antonio, a couple in Houston. Great to see you, Lisa. Great to hear from you so much. Thank you so much. And it's like, it's if y'all are in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, you know how hot it is. It's getting hotter by the moment. We're going to hit about 100 in heat index today. You in California, you lucky. That's all I got to say. Lucky.
They are lucky.
But some of them can't get out, though. So at least we got 50% at the restaurants,
We could go outside and be hot. They have to stay inside.
I've only been to a restaurant. It's so funny. Ever since the lockdown, I didn't, I was scared because, you couldn't go anywhere anyway, But then when they finally opened the restaurants, I went to my first lunch with a friend of mine, Barbara, and I went to this one restaurant, Mi Cocina. And I never was a Mi Cocina fan before. And now the only restaurant I've been to since then, since the beginning of lockdown, all the way to now, has been Mi Cocina. The same location, the same place, and they sit me in the same table every time.
Because you know what to expect, and it's because it was successful before, it's less dangerous to go there again versus try out that other place and see if they figured out how to social distance. I mean, you feel like you're gambling to some degree, when you venture out.
It's true, and I know some folks lately. There's been some folks that have come to me. I haven't, not personally, as far as they haven't come to me face to face, Skype, FaceTime, phone. I know that some people, have gotten COVID recently, and I've heard some of you, after 2-3 days you're better, you're getting better. 2 days it took. Some of you took longer. But if just be safe, you know what I mean. That's the thing, is be safe. Wash your hands a lot, and just be aware of what where you are and what's going on. And I know that some people have said that they went to some major events, some large events that I didn't know had taken place, and had gotten sick maybe there.
That's definitely risky.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would avoid the 100+ locations of when people are in there and there's a lot of folks, and just being aware of your surroundings. But I mean, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. But you got to think about it that way.
Yeah, I agree. It's everybody's got to make their own decisions, because even if they come up with a vaccine, are you gonna sit in your house for a year and a half?
Mm-mm.
Right. So it's just try and be smart with your decisions.
Yeah, be smart, and take care of yourself. And that's why, a lot of people had asked me if I was doing a birthday party today. And, I'm not doing a birthday party tonight because, well, we got COVID, and you can't have, I think you can have up to 10 people in a restaurant, and a party of a restaurant. I think it's next week, but I think right now it's 6.
Right.
And if you have more than 6, you have to divide up by a table so we could yell. We could yell over the other table and, figure that out. I don't think that's much of a birthday thing. And then at your house, I live in a building. So at your house, you can only have a certain amount of people if you live in a building. I mean, if I lived in a house, I could have as many people as I want. But I live in a building that's regulated by management. And then I live in an area that's been, on curfew as well. So, and with riots. So I figured that was not the perfect conduit to a great party.
Well, as I leave today, I'll honk my horn. That'll be. That's how the kids are getting nowadays. So,
Oh, they're
that's all you
beep
get.
beep.
Yeah, right by honking.
But they're getting like gifts thrown at them and stuff. You can
They
throw
are.
some gifts over
Okay,
here.
I'll look and see what else. Do you need battery cables or?
Yeah. Battery cables.
Well, there you go.
I could use a battery cable. I mean, if anybody got a new transmission sitting around, but no, I mean, it's like I get it, and I know a lot of y'all have had birthdays that got overlooked in the Aprils, and the Marches, and those are not cool, and I get it, and so we're gonna have to have a good celebration here at some point for everybody. So, I just agree. I'm so glad that everybody got to tune in today. Dan, last thoughts for today's show.
Well, like Ashley said, if I can help you out with your family history, it doesn't have to be soup to nuts from today till back when. Sometimes people are just interested in one segment of their family and how to figure it out. I'm happy to help with that. And just be glad to talk to you, even if we end up not doing anything.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting just getting that knowledge base, and figuring out what you want to do. And I think nowadays more than not, we're putting things in perspective, right? We're starting to think about what really matters more. And, it's like when I was thinking about the party, I was like, I want to see my friends and I want to hang out, but at the same time, I'm lucky, that I'm alive and that I'm not sick and that, I haven't been hurt or, by the situation that's happening as far as physically hurt. And I feel the pain for folks, and I got hit by tear gas on Saturday, by the way. So
Wow.
I got hit by tear gas on last Saturday. You can't say that I'm not in the middle of things, right? Yeah, and it hurts. And you can't see, and it burns. It really does. So just take my word for it. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was. And it's like you got a lot of people out there that stand up for a cause, and they're pleasantly protesting. And to that, that's part of our Constitution.
Yeah.
But the people that are piggybacking off of it around the world, especially here and around the world, it's not cool. And it's getting out of control, and we can't keep putting everybody in the same bin. I see people talking about protesters, and they're talking about, these are two different groups. You got people that are protesting something that matters to them, which I am totally 100% behind, and then you have people that are using this and piggyback on it, and they're causing mayhem. And you can't tell me that the shootings that took place yesterday in Dallas County and in Collin County, you can't tell me that that's legit. You can't tell me that people getting shot is legitimate. People were getting shot on McKinney Avenue. So people got shot in 1999 area of Cedar Springs. That's in the last couple of days. You can't tell me that this is, peaceful protesting. These are two different groups of people, maybe multiple groups. And so we have to be aware of that. And I think that a lot of times on social media, we see everything thrown in the same bin. And I just think that it's irresponsible.
Yeah, I would agree. But, you don't know if stuff's coming from the left, the right, foreign intrigue, whatever. And so all you can do is try and dig deeper and see where that information's coming from, to try and figure out what you should believe.
Mm-hmm, and I agree with the left, right, and foreign.
Other than that, nobody's out for us.
Yeah, just left, right, foreign. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And I agree with that stance too, because a lot of people don't take that in consideration as well. And that's what I was getting at in the show, is that I feel like we have to look at multiple aspects. We have to get the information from multiple places. And then we have to question the information we get, because again, it's not that easy. If it was that easy, there would be no conspiracy theories. If it was that easy, we wouldn't be investigating history. I mean,
Right.
it would be freaking transparent, and everybody would be like, oh yeah, everything's been great forever, and everybody's great, and everybody's lives are great, and nothing's ever happened. Well, that's just not the way it is. And so it's like there are levels of intricacy. Let's get our head out of our butt. We got to realize that. But where it's happening, it's not one person, it's not 5 people, it's not 100 people. There's a lot of people involved, and then there's people above them and people above them. And so it's like, let's get real in the Whole Foods parking lot, and let's start thinking about. Let's not start fighting everybody over they don't agree with my exact stance. Let's just realize that probably everybody has a little idea of the piece, and then if you put those pieces together, we would probably kind of have like a puzzle that we put together, but yet we'd still be missing pieces over here. So let's try to realize that and understand that, and that's why I feel like a lot of people are spending a lot of time on Facebook, I understand, but it's like, we need to really think where we're putting our time at. And that's why this show is not all political. That's why I haven't ever always gone all political, because it's not fair. Because politics is one part, but living our true life and being honest to ourselves is the power we have here. When we get out of that stance and we start focusing on other stuff that we can't control, well, either you need to get into politics and you need to start trying to control it, or you need to start really, thinking about where you're putting your time and energy. And so I'm just glad that everybody tuned in. Dan, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Y'all have a great night. have a great day, and thank you so much for the birthday wishes. And Nikki, so great to hear from you. David, Nishant, so good to hear from you. Y'all are awesome. Love y'all. Oren, love you. Barbara, love you. Y'all have a good night. Jacqueline,